Welcome to the Instrumental Pitch Club. Today we have guest speaker Steve Collom, who will be joining us in a moment. Right now we're gathering together. We have a bunch of questions that were submitted prior to this through Facebook. Our buddy Richard Carter had posted the question or posted a statement of let's get some questions beforehand, and we've gathered them. We'll share those with him in a little bit. I appreciate everybody muting themselves when they come on in. That way, you'll get some distractions during the call. You guys are welcome to unmute yourselves to pose the questions or interact, that kind of stuff. But well, welcome everybody. Did you guys have any other questions that you wanted to pose today? I would say just post them in the chat, and we'll see if we can get Steve to answer those things. He's going to only be available for about an hour here this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you guys are from, but he'll be joining us here in a minute.
Nice background, Jeff.
Oh, thanks. Oh, man, I had so much fun last night. Lisa went and hooked me up. We were doing various video game themes. She got me this great t-shirt. It's
yeah, I noticed that. That's awesome.
Level 50 unlocked. So,
have a nice evening then.
Yeah, man, we got on Zoom calls with a bunch of friends and family throughout the country, and
awesome, man.
Share these crazy backdrops, but I figure we would probably
Pac-Man. You've gone with the more tranquil cloud arrangement.
Yes, we have to, because it's instrumental, and I don't want to stimulate us all this afternoon. Looks like
it's a bit like the Truman Show, you know. You've reached the edge.
Ah, there we go. I have to touch it.
There you go.
You want
there he is.
Find the door, man. Find the third door.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Steve.
Hey, Steve.
Good morning, Steve. Thank
you. Am I on? Can anybody hear me?
Hey, Steve.
Good morning.
Hey, man.
Awesome. Oh, I keep muted. Hang on.
Yeah, we've asked everybody to mute themselves when they come on in, other than giving them a good love and welcoming and a heartfelt thank you for coming here today. You got about an hour, so we have a bunch of questions. Esther is really psyched. She submitted like 4 of them, so she might be taking over the whole meeting.
I have more questions too, but we can, I want to give everybody a chance.
Okay, yeah, let's prioritize these things. But looks like, is it Alyssa? She submitted one in the group. I'm not the best at reading out loud. I don't know if someone wants to read this thing, or let's say you guys probably already know the answer to this. With no vocals, do you put anything else down the middle besides kick drums with mixing, or generally mix the same as a full song? Were you able to follow that?
Let me see. Yeah, is it so someone was asking, do I put anything down the middle other than kick drum and vocal or something? Was that the question? Sorry.
Yeah, that is the question.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, that's on the mixing side of stuff. That's yes, typically, and I mix basically according to what what the majority of people expect to hear. Everybody expects to kind of they listen to a music and they expect it to do something, and so yeah, I put kick down the middle. I'll be careful about the high frequencies on the kick, just like around 2K or something. Just kind of try and avoid the vocal, because I usually in the center I'll have kick, vocal, bass. That's probably about it. They're probably main instruments, but I just be careful when you're doing the if you want some of the scratchy noise on a bass or something, if you want that up high, if you want some of that 2K range, then I definitely kind of just play with that as you're listening to the vocal, because the vocal is most important. But did you say without vocal? Is that what you said?
Yes, it was without vocal.
Right.
Yeah, if it's without vocal and I have a melody in there, I'll put the melody in the center. So if it's like a gosh, I don't know, like whatever melody is, piano melody, I'll kind of make that a little bit more center, because that's, you want it to be able to hear from both sides of the speaker, you know. So it's yeah, so that's kind of like the main kind of go-to. And then of course, if you want to get creative, well, there's no rules. You can do whatever you want. So what was it? Which Beatles album was it that I think all the vocals are on the left, or I can't remember which album that was, but something, I can't remember what it was. Was it Sergeant Pepper or something? I don't know.
I think you're right. I think it was Sergeant Pepper.
So
They did all kinds of stuff with that album.
yeah. So and they got to that level too, where they can do whatever they want. People are still going to buy their album, but we're at the point where we're trying to make usable music, and we want to fit the mold that they want. Kind of a theory that I usually have is I try and whatever the guide tracks or the alas or the reference tracks they give me, I always try and move it, like push it 25% either way, like kind of like that's kind of the ballpark that I kind of use. You know, I'll kind of like you know, I might go if it's very bass heavy and they didn't in the brief, they didn't say, hey, we want something real bass heavy, then I might go maybe a little bass light, or maybe and vice versa if there's you know. So I'll kind of like about that 25% mark is where I kind of like I do my little dance. I can't dance. I'm kidding.
I hear you. Well, hey, let's do like the main group. If everyone or if anyone has any questions they want to ask verbally, you know, raise your hand and we'll do that. But you know, we have some that are ones that were submitted, you know, via the Facebook group. So I'm going to post the first question here. And hey, Richard, do you mind reading it? I'm a bad reader.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jackie Clay requests, question is, when getting briefs in, what kind of instrumental cue genres seem to be the most needed? More pop, question mark, whatever.
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, that's a great question, and it's like a lot of genres, because you think about how many TV shows out there. Gosh, you know, they need blues, they need off the top of my head, the only genres that I can think of that I don't hear many references for is dubstep. You know, I don't know if you remember what that is from a few years ago. No one wants that anymore, and so that's one thing that is kind of like a no-no. So basically, most genres. Now, if you're what I would do is whatever your strongest suit is, whatever you can do the best at. Like maybe you're an EDM guy, or maybe you're an orchestra guy, or gal, you know, and you're maybe a singer-songwriter or organic stuff. Whatever you're good at, find out what kind of shows. Let's say you're a guitarist, and you're really good at guitar, and you can dial in a great guitar sound. Then find out the shows and the genres that are using the guitar music. You know, one of the tricks I do is I'll watch TV and just put a towel or a blanket or something over the TV, or maybe if it's on a laptop, I'll just put the screen aside so I don't get sucked into the stories or whatever, and I'll just listen. And you know, I don't know what they're talking about, and then sometimes I might, what? And you went, what's going on? But just try and ignore it, and your ears are constantly like listening to the music. It's that cool little trick. But just find out what they're using, and if you start writing that kind of material, you know, and then a brief is going to find you. You know, you'll find a brief, and then you'll submit, and then they'll be like, "Yep, I need a whole bunch of this. Can you do 10 more of them for an album or something?" You know, that's so super common. You know, but start off with your strongest suit. You know, whatever that is. Don't. But yeah, most genres. Yep, most genres. That's good news for us. You know, is if we're multi-instrumentalists, then, you know, gosh, we've got our work cut out for us now. So,
Well, it looks like we have a question in the group. Tapora has her hand up. Let me see if I can get her to unmute herself. Or, oops, looks like she already unmuted herself. Let's see if we can get, there we go.
Where is she?
You know what? I keep hitting.
Okay, I'm unmuted. Let's just leave it there. Okay.
My video game
Can you guys hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Thanks, Steve, for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm originally a classical composer. I studied like classical composition. So like I'm trying to find like a niche where that work that I do could belong. And so I have a cello player I'm working with, and I've been working with him already naturally for a couple years for my artist work. And my main reference artist is Agnes Obel. It's a lot of piano and cello and vocal stacking. So like she stacks the cello and sometimes other strings also. And I think some of it is live, and then some of it's from the DAW. So my question is, I hear like the music that I'm creating with him that's more classically oriented, and it's on the creepy side. It's like something you would hear like not in a horror film, but in a like suspenseful area of like a Netflix show. I also know that like a lot of these places have composers, and they're more looking for songs. So is that kind of instrumental already being done by in-house composers, and then I would just be kind of duplicating it? Like, should I just not even do that and just go towards like more of like melancholy, poignant songs with vocals, or is there a market for me to do that kind of instrumental?
I would do both. Do all the above. It's like I have, over 2,000 tracks out there, and I've kind of like lost count. I gotta get better organized. This year was kind of like, I don't know, I've put suffers everywhere. So it's kind of like, but the thing is, it's a quality and quantity business when you're doing instrumentals and film and TV and stuff. But if you keep doing it, you will be able to just live off royalties, and it doesn't matter. Like royalties just come in, and your BMI statement is just like, well, that's enough to live off. That's great, So that's the goal, and that's what you constantly keep building. And then, all the sync stuff that we're going for, the high bar stuff. That's all like that's all gravy, or as you'd say, that's like the cherry on the top. That's just extra, and that's great. But what I've tried to build is that just that base of bread and butter. The money, the royalties are just going to flow in, and I get to sit in my studio, and I'm my own boss. And I don't have anyone saying, oh, you got to do this kind of thing, you got to do this, you got to do this. And that's the cool thing about that. So I would recommend all of the above. You can't keep up. You won't be able to keep up. You just won't be able to do it. So if you feel you're in the mood to do some more vocal and cello and kind of stripped down arrangements of of classical kind of things, do it. Do 10 of them, do 20, do 30 until you're ready to go on to the next one. And then you just can't keep up. There's just like, I try to give myself a deadline and do 15 a month of something. If I'm doing vocal songs, then usually for me, it's 3 instrumentals is 1 vocal. So it takes me 3 times the amount of to do a vocal song, and it's just so much more involved. And but then also, you might have heard me say that in the film and TV for the instrumentals, for the instrumental cues and the library kind of side of things, it's just numbers. You got to have that quality, and you will get the quality if you just keep doing it. It's inevitable. It's just like, because you want to make it better all the time, you're just going to get faster. But yeah, I try all genres, and when we're doing this, I should say your actual boss is the marketplace. Just go ahead and turn on the TV, see what's getting used. If you're not hearing any of that style, let's say it's like traditional classical music. Well, I don't know many shows that use that, but they use hybrids of that. Cello is used all day long. You hear cello and pianos all day long. And the cool thing about cello and piano and acoustic guitar is, and strings, of course, and brass, actually, they're all organic sounds, and they haven't changed over the years. It's like the acoustic guitar 100 years ago, 200 years ago hasn't changed. So the cool thing is, when you do focus on those instruments, you can write today and then keep getting paid for decades, but when you do cutting edge pop, sometimes a lot of the time, if it's cutting edge pop, it can, have a shelf life. It's dated by 6 months or a year, and so I've done a lot of my stuff kind of like keeping with the organic instruments, real strings if you can, real strings if you can, real instruments, and because that it'll always be a real instrument. And with the classical music also, I have I hear a lot of publishers, they might request like maybe it's a 60s show, or there was a show not long, I think it was last year, I forget what it was, but something about the mob, or well, we've seen them all those kind of timepieces where it's like, you know, back in the 60s when the 70s, and they actually, a lot of the music supervisors will request, they'll request like originals 70s, like recorded in the 70s music, you know, so that's really kind of cool. And that won't be in-house composers, you know. To come back to your question with in-house composers, it's 50-50 across the board. Like some shows will get, you know what, we want our signature sound and we want our guy, and then the next show is just like, we just want to keep sourcing music. So it's 50-50. It all depends on what the director wants for his show. You know, if he'll sit down with the music supervisor and say, I want this feel for my show, you know, and whatever that means, you know. Do you have a budget for an in-house composer? That might dictate that, you know. So.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate that. And just to be clear, I don't write like traditional like Debussy and things like that. It's more like modern. So I'm doing kind of like a hybrid. I consider it like a classically influenced hybrid sort of dark pop. So my other question, just an extension of what you just said, is I've written down several libraries, and I don't know if there's a particular library where I should go or just start doing it. And then I was wondering, some of these pieces are going on 6 minutes. Some of them I'm capping at like 3.5. Should I be keeping them short like pop tracks, or is it okay to go on longer? Should I still have those 30-minute, 60-minute spots that you do with like the pop tracks?
Good question. I would err on getting. I would definitely say go shorter, because if it didn't fit that, like you spent 6 minutes, and let's say you've got three songs there at 2 minutes each. So, and if you do 1:30, which a lot of my instrumental cues are 1:30, that's just because they're going to look at the title and be like, you know, they might want you know, it's a lot of the time it's a music editor, and they'll be like, okay, we've got a scene where it's kind of dramatic. Something's happening and needs a tiny bit of tension, but not like over the top tension, but just a tiny little bit of tension. And he'll listen to the first few seconds of your track, and he'll be like, nope, or yes, and then he'll wait till he finds that one. He won't even get to the 6 minute, you know. And if usually people want, like the music editors especially, they'll just be like, okay, I've got like 30 edits, and then I'm meeting my buddies for drinks or something, and then they're like, I got to get this done as quick as I can. They don't. Sometimes a lot of the time they're working a job. They're going to do that project, and then there's another project. And so many times in film and TV, on the TV world, it's so fast. You know, they'll get all of the reel, all the video, and they have to put all music to it, and then it airs, like it goes live that night or the next day. It's like, wow, they got to get it done. They haven't got time to, and so they're just constantly is this the track? Is this the track? Is it? Nope. And on that note, and I know we're getting off the side a little bit, but on that note, make sure your titles are selling. That's your first sales point, because you think about a music supervisor, he's got 20 minutes and he's got to get through maybe 40 songs, and you do the math on that. He just doesn't have the time to listen to all of them. So he's going to pick and choose based off titles. He's going to go, you know, maybe it's maybe the scene is a heartfelt kind of conversation between two actors or whatever. He's going to go down in anything that has, you know, maybe the actors are saying goodbye. So anything that has goodbye, or I'll never see you again, or so long, or he's probably going to listen to those ones first, because the theme is goodbye, you know, so he's going to listen to those songs first. So that's very important. So. Sorry, that was a long question. So I'll try and keep it short.
Do you know if there's like a particular couple of libraries I should focus on, or are like the ones that we've been hearing about, just like I should just pump into, like, just pick some libraries and just start pumping music in there?
Yes, I would definitely do that. Yep, to start getting your feet wet. I think I've recommended a few. Jingle Punks is a great one. That's open for anyone to submit, and they're always on my royalty statement. So they're getting placements. They're working hard, and you just listen to what's on TV and then write something like that and submit it to Jingle Punks, and you just keep doing that, and it will build. You'll get placements, and you'll get placements, and then you'll be on vacation sitting on the beach, and you'll be like, oh, just got a couple of placements, nice. And it's just such
and then I'll tell you, I'll be like, thank you, and can I have my bottle of wine now?
yeah, yes, you got to DM me, that's for sure.
I know. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
Great questions. Thanks for asking that, Mewtwo. I wanted to actually jump the queue a little bit. There was a great question asked, I think it was by Toby Roberts. I just put it in the chat. I'll try to read it, or if Richard wants to read it. When working on instrumentals, what time lengths do you break them down into, i.e. 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or do you just create multiple edit points in the one track? I thought that was kind of a good segue after Tapora's question.
Yeah, great question. Most of my instrumental cues, because I just kind of put on that hat. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to write an instrumental cue so I know it's quality, but it's also quantity. So I keep mine around 1 minute 30, 120, 125, 30, somewhere around there. Basically, I do 3 sections of each piece. I do the first part where it's whatever the motive is. If it's a sad kind of thing, I'll just jump straight out of the gate with a minor chord with some pads or something, whatever, and then I'll go for 30 seconds on that, and then I'll do another 30 seconds of something else, something different. So it needs a change by about that, and then I'll go back into the first part, but I won't copy and paste. I'll copy some of the parts, but then I'll add something to it, so it is a different part. And if you can put edit points at the beginning of those, that's perfect, because if they really like that track, what I've had a lot is they might really like that one track, and then they've used it so many times, and they're like, oh, what else have we got? I like this guy, and so then they'll use the other parts. And so I usually find that they might use the same track, like the same part of the song. I'll listen to it, and then later on they want to use that song again, because don't forget, we're talking about music editors, and we're trying to make people's jobs easier. And what's easier, if they already know your stuff is good and it works so well, what else has that guy got, but I try not to, I don't do the 30-second edits and then send in a stem of a 30-second or a minute, unless I have to. There's, which you guys, I think I've told you about, Myb Music. Look those guys up too. They're always on my royalty statement. Myb Music is great, but they do require, they call it a narrative, which is without the melody. Then they have a 30-second edit, a 60-second edit, drums and bass, and you got to do 2 alt mixes. So it's a little bit more work, but so I like Jingle Punks, where you just send them and go on to the next song. That works out good for me. But everyone, you got to find your groove and find out what you love to do. I love just creating music, and so I like different kind of styles. But hopefully that answered your question. Yeah.
That was good. Another question that I come up with is, I have a huge catalog myself, and so we come forward, and so you're bringing all this new music, and you hear from various different sources. John was saying, create new music. Your old stuff isn't going to be any good. I've been at it 25 years, so I can't say my stuff is going to be bad. That would just be, I've just wasted half my life. But, it's, and you hear, and, I'm a member of Taxi now. I've been watching their stuff for quite a bit. And, they're all instrumental cues for the most part. And they're saying, you got to write, and then forget about it. That's the whole thing. And I saw your thing with Dean Kripane, where it's, you write it, you submit it, and forget it, because maybe you'll get paid. Maybe you'll get paid for it this week, next week. Maybe you'll get paid for it 5 years down the road, and you can't stop. And so my question is, how do you organize? You said you got to organize. You said you got 2,000 tracks. How do you know when to submit and go into your catalog and go, hey, this one's go right there? And how can you easily access it?
That's a great question. Great question. And yeah, if you've been if you've been at it for 20, 25 years plus, then yeah, you musically wise, I'm sure your stuff is ready to be placed. But or keeping organized, gosh, yeah, that's a challenge. At the moment, my system that I have is I usually write and submit somewhere. So I try to get it somewhere, and then I end up kind of switching off. But I know that I have quite a lot of songs sitting in folders that I should go back to. There is what John said is exactly right. There is a market for new stuff. They're always wanting new stuff, and so a lot of the time they might I've even heard of publishers saying, like the music supervisor would say to one of the publishers, hey, send us your new CD or your new hard drive of material of songs and stuff. And they will send them a bunch of new stuff, but they'll also throw in a bunch of great songs that's not new, and they get used, So it's just the theory of having, I want a new hard drive with new material, so there is that in the industry. That's for sure. So to keep myself organized, I up until about last year, I think I dropped the ball about mid 2019, but normally I upload. I put them every month. I have a folder. Every month I have a music folder, and I have all my songs in that, and then I'll start a new folder the next month. So I can look back at those folders and be like, when did I do that song? Oh, that was in July. That was in August. So I do that, and I use the search function a lot with Apple, which is kind of cool. And then I actually have a huge Excel sheet that, as I said, I kind of stopped entering that in mid 2019, which is, I don't want to think about that. So long story short, I got to get back on the track and start entering a lot of those stuff. And then I also, for backup reason, because these are all my assets, I upload them to a hard drive, and then I upload them to Dropbox, and I have all my finals up there. And then I have, 2 copies of it, so if anything crashes, I've got another backup. But yeah, to keep organized, that's what I try and do. And but I don't often pull, I get briefs a lot, and if I don't have anything that I remember off the top of my head in the last few weeks or something, I'm like, I
just write a new one.
I'd write a new one, or I don't even, I don't hardly even submit to briefs, because you will get to a stage where you start meeting all these publishers, and then they will just email you and say, hey, can you give me an album of these? And that connection's stronger, because if they want an album of these kind of songs, they're going to you because they obviously like your stuff, and they like you, and they need that kind of stuff. So that's directly going to, that's better than just going to a brief where the person doesn't even know. You're kind of sitting in a group of a bunch of other people. So you end up just prioritizing, just saying. And the cool thing is, when you do write directly for a publisher and they want an album of those kind of songs, you submit it, and then you can forget about it. And a lot of the time they might pay for that. So they'll pay up front, which means that they keep all the sync. So any sync that comes in, they keep, but you still keep all your back end royalties. So that's, and I'm in it for the cash flow, like the flow, like having a big sync up front's nice, but having cash flow is a lot more freedom, So.
Yeah, that would lead us into somebody else's question. How do you get it into the music libraries?
Great. Well, as I said, you got My Music is a great one. Jingle Punks. There's another one, Pond 5. It's not quite a music library. It's kind of another. Those are great, and those are great just to start getting in there. Now, and then start going to events. When this opens up, or I know there's some events online, but just start trying to meet publishers, and it takes a while to find someone who really loves your stuff. And because that's the key. If you can find someone that no matter big or small, if they love your stuff and they're a fan of your stuff, it's going to be a win-win no matter how big they are, because you're going to be on their mind, and they're going to be like talking about you, bragging about you to other people. If you just get into a library, like I'm signed with another big company that's distributed through Universal, and it's huge, like it's absolutely huge, but I'm just another number with all these people. So I've had more success with smaller libraries and smaller publishers who know who I am, and they're like, you got to check this stuff out too. They're pitching my stuff. So, but yeah, kind of, hopefully that kind of answers, but yeah, start with those guys, those libraries, and just try and get to those events and try to meet those guys. And that's then it becomes all networking, and just trying to network with different guys, and then you'll end up being too busy. And I've been to conferences where I hope I don't meet another person, and they keep out, and then they want more music because I'm still trying to get music to these other guys. So anyway,
Such a problem to have.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. So if you ever actually, that's actually another note on networking. If you ever meet anyone and they seem like a little vague, or they don't want to tell you what they do, there's a good chance that maybe they don't want any more work, and they're like, yeah, good to meet you too. So,
Well, we're going to move on to Stefano's question, the stash, and see what he has to say.
Hey, how you doing, Steve?
Hey, good. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Haven't spoke to you yet, but thanks for joining us.
No worries.
I've got a question for you regarding this book. I don't know if you've heard of it or read it. Well,
Bedroom Super. No, I haven't heard of it. Bedroom Super Producer. Is that yours?
yeah, the Bedroom Super Producer. No, it's not. Well, no, I own it, but I didn't write it. But yeah, it's a guy called JT Cloutier. He's a Canadian guy who is basically a blueprint for people who want to submit music to libraries. So it's his entire experience, not just so much the during, but the before and after and everything in between. So it's a really, really, really good book. I recommend it for anyone trying to get into that.
Who's the author?
Yeah, like check it out. But a couple years ago, I bought that. That was kind of where my mind was and what my goal was, my focus, and that was before I even knew about placements and syncing and that kind of stuff. So this is way more appealing to me because I like the idea of making direct connections and pitching for the big bucks in ads, and then like you said, this can just be a sort of bread and butter thing, but this felt like too much of a long game in comparison to what is also a long game with sync placements and stuff. They're both long games, but I felt like this one's potentially quicker. Anyway, either way, I've got a question surrounding it. One of the things in the book is about submitting to multiple libraries. So what's your advice if you have any on the subject of, like, it says that obviously there's a difference between exclusive and non-exclusive licenses, right? But it says in the book that there can be complications when submitting the same track to multiple libraries on a non-exclusive basis to do with the title of it and stuff. And so do you need to retitle them when you submit to multiple libraries? Do you, in your experience, would you just advise that you submit to one with each track? Like you said before, you normally write a track and then you might submit it to a library and then it's kind of done for a while and skips the Excel spreadsheet.
If it even makes it there.
Yeah.
Great
I wonder
question.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, great question. And that's a big debate, and you have to find what works for you. I've never had, to clarify for anyone who's not sure, if you sign a song exclusive to a library, if that's in their contract, then you got to, like, depending how long the term is, if it's in perpetuity, then that's a big risk. You better hope that library will get it. I've never done any of those. I do have a publisher that requires in perpetuity exclusively, and he does get placements, and he's pretty cool. I don't get him very much stuff, but every now and then I'll maybe give him, a couple of, maybe an EP or something, but that's just too big a deal to me. If I'm going to pour 40 hours into a song or something, or 20, whatever amount of hours, you know, I want to be able to own that for the rest of my life, you know, because I know. So anyway, yeah, you've got exclusive, and then you've got non-exclusive which is what you're talking about. That can cause problems. I've never had a problem before with it, but I don't know if I've been in it for 10 or 11 years in the film and TV world, getting placement stuff, but I've never had a problem with it. I don't retitle. There are some libraries and publishers who sign your music not exclusive, and they do retitle it for you. So they might put a number on it or something. And so if that song, let's call it Beautiful Day or something, and that song, that's your title, and then they sign it non-exclusive, they might say 1, 2, 3, A Beautiful Day, or Beautiful Day 1, 2, 3, number 1, 2, 3, 4 or something. They'll just have a number on it, and then when they send that to the music supervisor and it gets placed, it's a retitle, it's a new name.
Okay.
So I don't do any of that personally, and a lot of my publishers and connections, and they've slowly gone that way over the last 5 years, have gone more exclusive. And I don't know if you have a date on that book. I'm guessing it was 5 years ago. I'm guessing.
Gosh, what would the date be?
Copyright date.
2017. So
okay.
3 years.
So yeah, and the problem that you're talking about is it's one that has come up. People have talked about it a lot at different events and conferences where, let's say I have a song called Beautiful Day, and I give it to a publisher who, you know, signs it non-exclusively, and then we both pitch it to a music supervisor, and the music supervisor's friends with both of us, and then he wants the song and he places the song. Who is he going to say? You know, is he going to? Who is he better friends with? Who is he going to pay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the scenario. But I don't do any, and same thing. Even if I don't pitch it, and another publisher pitches that song, that's the problem that you might run into. But I don't know. I don't worry about it. I don't worry about it personally.
You say that you would submit to multiple libraries with the same track then, or do you tend to keep it to one, or you might submit it to a few?
Earlier on, I submitted to lots of different non-exclusive. So I'd try and get it out as many places as possible. And I think that's smart in the way that, like, it might sit on someone's shelf at one library, and then the other person is ready to put it on their platform or whatever, or they pitch it on their next hard drive or whatever to the next editors. So I think it's smart to get out there, and I know a lot of people in my industry that it's a lot easier to make a full-time income by doing it that way, non-exclusively, versus exclusive. It just makes more sense. You might have a problem, I don't know, but that even if you think about that, and they say to you, hey, we got the song from someone else, we're going to give it to them, and even if you call them up and say, hey, I heard my song, we get placed, and they say, oh yeah, we heard theirs first, and so we gave them the money, and then it trickled through to you. Even if that was the case, that's going to be one in 10,000 placement,
Yeah.
I'm guessing. And so anyway, so you got to find it for yourself. But currently, in the last 3 or 4 years, I've just been getting more just exclusive. You know, publishers say, well, I'll pay for 10 of these tracks up front, and we'll take the sync. And I'm like, yeah, sure, no worries. It'll take me, you know, I think
that's ideal.
That's ideal, you know, if you can do that, because then it just keeps you working, and then you do get the back end as well. So I've been doing more of that the last since 17, I guess, somewhere around there. And so I just haven't had enough time to then put songs in or music in non-exclusive places. I just don't have the time anymore. So, but when I first started, I definitely got out there to just trying to get them out there. I didn't retitle anything myself. You know, it's been a debate for, you know, I think as soon as I began, like maybe 2011, I've been hearing about that debate. You know, non-exclusive, you've got people that are 100% either way. You know, some people are just like, no, you can't do that. Even other composers or artists, they're like, no, you wouldn't never do that. I can't believe you do that. You know, and then, you know, and then other people are like, well, I'm enjoying the royalties off that, you know, and I haven't had a problem. And so you just got to find your own groove, you know. So.
Yeah, fair play, man. Because I know, like, with an exclusive library, you're going to get a lot more money, and with a non-exclusive library, you get a lot less because obviously you can still pitch it yourself. But yeah, no, that makes sense. It sounds like, is that right?
Not always, not always. So the non-exclusive, not always. So and like an exclusive library might pay money up front, but I've had plenty of publishers ask I've had plenty of exclusive publishers request music from me, and they don't want to pay any money up front. And it's just like, yeah, no worries. I'd love to get you some stuff. I'll see if I can get some time, and maybe I do have time, maybe I don't, but they mightn't pay anything and they want it exclusively. And, you know, I've gone backwards and forwards with a few different publishers and said, look, you know, I really can't do that. Is there a budget? And they're like, nope, this is our deal. And it's like, fine, you know, and I've had great placements with some of those guys. And you know, when I do get some time, I'm thinking of one publisher in mind, and he's like, nope, this is my contract, real kind of dry and really kind of like, just like, nope, I'm not working, you know. And I get it. That's their business plan. They have one contract and that's what they do. And they don't want to change anything for you unless you're a hit writer or something, you know. And so, but you know, I submitted some songs and got some placements on Subway and some big stuff. So it's like,
cool.
But
Great,
yeah, but yeah, if it's not exclusive, they're definitely not going to pay up front for a non-exclusive because, you know, what's in it for them? How are they going to get their money back? You know, but when somebody pays for a track up front, or if they give you an advance, then usually they'll take the sync. So if you get, you know, if it syncs to a show and, you know, they get $1,500 or a couple of grand, they keep that. And maybe they only paid you $1,000 or $500 or something, but they, you know, it's a business plan. That's, you know, they paid you up front. You said, thanks, I got money up front now. And they do all the work to try and get money later. So
I wasn't even aware that they did up front, to be honest. I thought it was all just you submit the track, and then if it gets licensed, you know, then you get the money. I didn't know there was like upfront situation. That sounds very appealing. But I guess that's further down the road once you've established relationships and stuff with publishers.
Yes, and once you get your stuff good, when you get to that level that John's talking about, when your stuff is like, could be synced, it could be anything, you know, and it's kind of like a level of production, you know. It's like you've got to get to that level where it's like, yes, it can be synced, but maybe it's too rocky now. It's just a genre thing that we're thinking. When you get to that level where your stuff is really pro, they'll start paying for it because they know that that's going to get placements, you know, and and it's a guarantee, you know. If you know, if all of us would be like, if we knew that this song is going to get a 10 grand placement, you just know it's sometime, and you have the opportunity to pay $1,000 to somebody right now, we'd all probably, like, sounds great. You know, that's an investment for them, and they're all publishers are in it for a business. You know, they're like, what's going to make sense? But I'm coming back to what you're saying also too, that sometimes they change, the prices change. The back end royalties is. That they might change their fee, or some publishers will have a high fee and pay you more per song up front, but the back end is dictated by your PRO. So, you know, and depending whether or not your placement is like a super usage on a network, that pays a lot higher than you know, a usage.
I see. Yeah.
So that's all different with your PRO. And even in the States here, ASCAP and BMI, they have different rates, so they pay different as well. And so it's like, you know, it's
that's good to know. I didn't know it was dependent on that, man. Well, thanks for sharing your experience. It's really helpful.
No worries.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Well, we're going to move on to Toby and then Esther after that. So let's go ahead and have Toby unmute himself. He's going to ask some of these questions that he had posed in the Facebook chat, and I'm going to be quiet.
Am I going to post them? Hi, Steve. Good to see you.
Hey.
I was chatting a few times, so it's cool to actually speak to you.
Great. Yeah.
That's cool. One of the questions I had that I actually posted in the chat was writing like an album for a queue. So like, for example, watching, I know, next season of Ozark and kind of almost sort of anticipating what's going to come next and kind of going, okay, I'll write around that kind of vibe. you know, obviously you're not going to write a whole season, but kind of go, okay, I'm going to do 12 tracks based on that, the mood swings they're going to go through that season. Is that a good option thing to do? Because I mean, I just find when I'm writing, you know, you can get in that zone, so it's kind of like, okay, I can, you know, I can see what you can almost sort of plan that scene in your head musically, so you can go, is that
Yep.
a good idea or a waste of time to kind of go down that route?
No, excellent idea. No, that's exactly what you want to do. Now you can't. Now sometimes they do change the flavor of the music in the next season. Not that much, but just be aware. But you've got two things going for you. Yes, possibly, you know, actually more than two. You know, you can connect with the music supervisor and say, hey, I loved Ozark, or, you know, which that's a great show if anyone's seen. I liked it. So, you know, you say to them, okay, I got an album here of stuff that, you know, and you're pitching directly to the music supervisor saying, hey, I loved it. You know, I've written a whole album and I think it'd be really usable for you. So first of all, you know, now the music supervisor is like, you got their attention because they're like, wow, this could make my job easy. You've got 12 songs ready to go. Okay, let's check this out. You know, the second thing is you're doing stuff that's working right now. So even if they change their scene and maybe like they change their flavor, and then next season they do something a little different, you know, there's hundreds of other shows that are looking at maybe the Ozarks and they're saying, we love what they did there, we want to do something similar like that. So now you've got plan B of like a whole album of stuff that's totally usable. And then you know, so those are a couple of great things that I do that all the time. I do it all the time. You know, if I'm like stuck and I want to write some stuff, I'll just have a little browse of what's getting used right now today, and just write a bunch of that, and then you submit it, and it will get used because that's the trend. You know, that's the genre. So that's a great idea. Yeah,
that's cool. No, it's just I've noticed. I was watching like Westworld, like really listening to music in Westworld because I thought it was fantastic. I mean, some of the just composition. As a musician, I appreciate it. It's great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I'm watching other shows that kind of like they've almost nicked the vibe. They've stolen the vibe and gone, hey, we like that. We're gonna put that in our themes, and the overriding like musical vibe, even though it's not, you can't sort of place it in any genre. It's kind of a lot of it's to do with the production, obviously, as well, you know, the production of the music, but it's kind of, I know, gets there, which kind of leads to me on my second question, which is about being different, being quirky in your musical cues. You know, how far, I mean, I resonated with what you're saying about piano, cello, guitar, you know, the authentic instruments, mm-hmm. or acoustic instruments sort of carrying through, but being different, you know, sort of how, you know, synth sounds get dated so easily. Yep. You know, so you can go, oh, that's 80s, that's 90s, that's nice. And now we go, that's 2016, that's 2017, 2018. How adventurous do you think you can be in terms of that soundscape? In being current, what I mean, kind of, and you know, in current in 2 years' time, kind of thing.
Yeah, I would just listen to if that's your main goal, you don't want to be too cutting edge, then you won't get any of those pop placements, you know, and that's fine. I don't get many of those, you know, bubblegum kind of pop placements because I don't want to spend, you know, 20, 30 hours on a song that it's going to be dated so quick. So for me personally, I'm like, nah, I'll spend that money. I'll spend that time on something else that will be a little bit more authentic. No, I wouldn't say authentic, but more organic, like more like organic recording on real instruments. And so I kind of focus on that. But coming back to the question of kind of being quirky, or maybe even finding your kind of your sound, that I don't really do that much that way. I keep my sound from my artist stuff because I'm a singer-songwriter, you know, first. That's what I love to do. I love writing songs, and, you know, I sound like Jack Johnson meets Ed Sheeran, you know, if you haven't heard of it, that's the kind of stuff that I love to do. But I know, and I knew it at the very beginning, that that for every placement on TV that pays, it's like 1 to 10 of 10 instrumentals and 1 vocal. That's just a fact. And it might even be more. I've had people say it's probably 20 to 1, but it's just, so knowing that, I'm just like, well, let's just do some music in the morning and I'll write 1 song a week or something, or just do music during the day. So, and I just love music. So that works out well for me. But I keep my quirkiness, or I keep my artist, my like special flashy stuff. I keep that for my artist side. And then for the film and TV stuff, where it's just like, I'm writing it's kind of like a service industry. What does the market want? And I just write that, and it always follows the top 40. It's always a little bit behind the top 40. If Niall Horan or Justin Bieber releases a track, be sure that if it's number 1 or a top 10 or whatever, no, top 40, a year later there's going to be placements on TV that sound similar to that kind of stuff. That's a fact. So so you can kind of follow the trends, but there's ways to do it too that like if a synth has a certain sound, what is that sound, or what is it that they're doing? And can you do it on maybe an organic instrument? This is what I think. Can you do it on a sound that will have a little bit longer shelf life than the cutting edge? When that dubstep. Does everyone know what dubstep is or was? It's so it's this crazy kind of genre that just when it had all these crazy sounds and stuff. And, I had a publisher say earlier on, that was for me. And I had a publisher said, oh, we want a bunch of these. And I got him a bunch, and they aired on Access Hollywood, like the next few months or something. It was like really quick turnaround. And, but then they've never been used again. And it's like, so it's kind of like, you do all those crazy sounds but hip hop, you might think hip hop hasn't, wouldn't be, maybe it's too pop, or to me, it's too like synthy. You got too many sounds that can be dated, and hip hop just keeps getting used. And the last thing I'll say is film and TV music is about the vibe and the emotion. That's all it is. If they want happy, then they give them something happy. Ukuleles, give them bouncy, stuff on the upbeat. If they want dramatic, give them tension strings, or give them something that's, if they want. So it's all about emotion, because you're in the service industry, you're supporting whatever the director is, whatever the scene is. The director says these people are going to say something and we want tension, so the editor and the music supervisor has to look for tension.
I guess what I kind of meant a little bit by quirky, I mean, I remember hearing the Jody Friedman interview, and he was saying like a music soup asked him for some, I don't know, Persian hip hop, kind of like a weird, kind of thing. And it was just sort of really, being quirky, I mean, in composition, just in the music, I composed a thing that sounds like an Egyptian bazaar, like in a marketplace, kind of thing, with all these kind of, sort of weird sounds. And it's more sort of kind of saying, how do I get myself known for being able to do that, kind of, as well as not just sort of, that's my main thing, but I can do that, if you ask me, kind of thing. Do you get what I mean?
If you have a genre that you're good at, that's your strongest, and I would just keep doing that, and you will get known as you become really, really, really good at that. You will be known. Your publishers will know you as that guy that does that sound, and they'll get it, But earlier on in your career, just think about your marketplace and be like, okay, well, if let's just use that example, Persian hip hop. I think maybe one scene or one thing I can think of in old TV that I've watched, or maybe a handful, maybe 10. I'll be really generous. But if you compare it to a rock cue where it's just like AC/DC kind of down, down, or something like that, it's placed in every TV show ever. It's like, so your marketplace is a lot bigger, and so you might be the number one guy in Persian trap. Yeah, Persian trap hip hop with a taste of reggae jazz. You might only get one placement in your life. So.
Yeah, but if it's worth 200 grand, it's worth it, isn't it? Surely. Yeah.
And they won't pay that.
I mean, it did have a strategy, you know, kind of thinking more mainstream. It's just kind of, I suppose it's really about trying to hint at what your other things you're capable of. If you're kind of going, okay, you sort of present yourself mainstream, and then, but I can do this. So that was kind of, but that's cool.
Yeah, and on that note, I'll just bounce off that. A lot of the publishers want you to do one thing. Like when you first meet them, the worst thing you want to say, and I get it, because everybody wants to be able to do multiple things. Like that sounds like a no-brainer. But that's the worst thing you want to say to someone when you meet them. When they say, "So what do you do?" And then you're like, "Well, I can do whatever you want me to do." They're like, amateur, you know. They're like, when they ask you what do you do, you're like, you say your strongest thing, and you get into the door that way. And you know, I've done my elevator pitch in elevators and stuff, and met someone I'm like, they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, I'm a singer-songwriter. I sound like Ed Sheeran meets Jack Johnson, blah blah. And then they're like, oh great, well I do hip hop exclusively. And I'm like, great, awesome. Well, it's great to meet you. You know, have a great one. You know, it's just not going to work, so that's fine. You know, that's fine. The last thing you want to do is, yeah, be like, I can do hip hop. I can do hip hop. I can do hip hop.
Cool.
Yeah.
Toby, we're going to move on to Esther. We're running out. We got about 4 more minutes, unless Steve has more time, but I suspect we won't. But if we have more questions, we can open it up to the general forum after this, where we can try to answer each other's questions and let him rock on to his next meeting. But thanks again, Toby, and let's bring on Esther.
Hey, Steve. Thanks so much for doing this. I want to be like you someday, FYI. Do what you do.
So somebody who makes a lot of mistakes and somebody
Yes.
who loves to go surfing.
Well, because surfing is questionable, but the more mistakes you make, the better you get at it, right? So a lot of the questions that I have been kind of addressed and stuff, but like when you're first starting out, what's like your strategy? So are you focused on like the stuff that is common, like the AC/DC rock stuff, or are you gonna try to tackle like the Italian instrumentals, the Middle Eastern Indian? Like, is it worth my time like learning all of those different like genres? Because in my mind, the chances are like there's not a lot of people that are gonna cater to that. So I think I have a better chance if I learn it, but then I would have to take time to learn it. So what's your take on that?
Great question, and I think that we're all exactly the same. We're in the exact same place as Bill Gates, or Elon Musk, or we all have the same amount of time. So you only start winning when you fill that time up with stuff that's enjoyable. So whatever is enjoyable. So if you can't stand a genre, don't do it. It's not worth it, So you have X amount of hours every day that you can put into this, and so do the stuff that you like. So if you're like playing with sounds, and so earlier on in my career, I chose that, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to do the stuff I like, whatever that is, and we'll adapt, we'll change as we go, and maybe I'll do some. I didn't know at the time that I might do some dubstep, but that dubstep's not my favorite, just for anybody. It's just like, I'm like, this stuff's horrible. But anyway, that's my opinion. But so yeah, I would start out with filling up your hours with stuff you enjoy doing. And because then you're having a great life, you're winning every day. You're like, yeah, this was fun today. I did this, So, and then just find avenues that you can, that would use that, because they will come, and you might have to adapt a little bit, but that's fine. You don't have to be so strict and be like, this is the only style I'm going to do. You can start broadening out. And one of my main goals was to get good at the beginning. I'm like, this is like an instrument. Doing production is like an instrument. I have to get good. So I just figured, just write, just record, just send it out there, do it all again. Because how do you get good at your instrument? Your teacher will tell you, practice, put your hours in. Simple as that. So this is all that is. And then when your stuff gets good, when your stuff gets good, then you have so many more choices. You're just like, well, let's try this over here, or let's what I do a lot of, I'll collaborate with somebody who can do something that I won't even spend the time, or maybe I'm not that passionate about. I'll get them to do, I'll collaborate with them and say, hey, why don't you do that part and I'll do these parts, and we're done, done. So
Yeah, thanks. And I have one more like main
Yeah.
question. So you said last week during the mentor panel that you don't get a lot of like your instrumentals placed, like the tracks behind like your songs. But like I'm looking at a lot of the taxi listings and they reference like songs, but they want the instrumental, like not the top line. So they'll reference like, you know, a Justin Bieber song, but they don't care about the vocals. They just want like the instrumental. So I guess like what's your take on that? Because I'm trying to like kill two birds with one stone. And I think everybody here is trying to do like, if we create a song, we want to be able to use that like as a song and like an instrumental. So if Taxi's asking for just like the instrumental, can I just submit like that instrumental behind the song?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Every one of my songs comes with an instrumental. That's just,
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. That has to happen. So yes, if they want one of Justin Bieber's songs, of course they don't want to, maybe they don't want the vocal, they just want that vibe, and that's what I was saying before, you know, within a year, you know, you're getting briefs and you're getting placements, although you hear it on TV, the same top 40 kind of songs. So yeah, absolutely. That's kind of yeah, definitely. So what you said, so you just submit your song that sounds like that without lyrics, you know, and you just send it in and now if I don't write full instrumentals like that, like go for three minutes, or I just do a verse and a chorus and back to or I do a chorus, verse, chorus kind of deal, where it's just like straight into the groove or whatever, then it brings down for 30 seconds and the next 30 seconds, back to it. So it'll sound like, and I just send that in. And I call those cues, but yeah, definitely. So yeah, send it in. Absolutely. That's exactly what they want. So.
Thank you.
No worries.
Hey, you guys. Your time's up there, Steve. I don't know if you I want to appreciate you being here today and answering all these questions. What's up, bud?
Well, no worries. We can do one more. I'll do one more.
One more? Okay. We got Che. She's in the queue, so you want to unmute yourself there?
Hi, thank you. I have two questions. First of all, if I'm not wanting to do my own pitching and I want to be repped by somebody else, how do I find that person?
If you want to be repped, if you mean repped as an artist, meaning that all of your creative stuff is repped by them, that's different to signing one of your songs exclusively to a publisher, because that one song is repped, which I think is a lot better than signing you as an artist, you as a name, you as a person over to a company for 2 years or something like that. Which one were you thinking more towards?
Well, I have a CD out, and I got into this course to begin with just thinking, well, maybe some of those songs might be syncable to film and television, definitely not advertising. And I just wanted to find out, but as far as like the pitching and approaching people and all of that stuff, I don't see myself doing that. I would rather have somebody that's like in the sync world take a cut and, you know, have their connections and go pitch my stuff for film and television. Yeah. And I don't know how to find that person.
Oh, and that's great. Definitely go to some of the events that they have. You know, there's a lot of online events now, and you do have to kind of get out there and network a bit and just, which is a whole nother subject, you know, but comment on people's posts and find out where the music or the publishers are. But yeah, the deal that you're probably looking for, or that I would recommend, is getting your CD of music repped by a publisher or something, but not you as an artist, because I've had a lot of, because you got to be careful. Like there's the artist deal where, you know, they own you. Every part of every song that you write for those 2 years is theirs. That's not the deal that you want. You know, I have like 18 or so different publishing deals, but each one of those deals is tied to a song, or an album, you know, so then I'm able to go ahead and do other stuff. But I've had friends who sign an artist deal and they're kind of locked up, you know, for 2 years. So I would just go to the networking events. As I said, Jingle Punks and My Music, those are great. They're always on my statement. Pond 5 is another place, non-exclusive, where you can put your CD and tag it with all the metadata and stuff, and and you can get it out there going, and you don't have to think about it, yeah. So hopefully that helps, but there is two different ways of getting it repped. So there's two different approaches.
Okay, and then my second question is, I'm with BMI, and I'm listed as both a publisher and an artist or writer. And I also signed up with CD Baby, and they're doing the admin on it. So I got this check in the mail, and they took a cut, and it ended up being like $18.75. But at least I didn't have to figure out streaming, in the UK or wherever else it was, streamed and stuff like that. And I'm wondering, should I continue with them, or is that just a bad idea? Or, what do you think on that?
I'm not exactly sure about the CD Baby deal. I know TuneCore has one, and I can't remember, but I don't sign up to them. I sign up to another company called AdRev, and they collect all my streaming, YouTube and Vimeo. They collect all those royalties. So when I release a song, I send it to the AdRev to collect that, and I think that's what a CD Baby and TuneCore are doing. So I don't sign up, and I use DistroKid, so that's what I use as getting my stuff out and streaming. But no, I've heard a lot of bad stories about doing all that. But I would get on the forums and Google up that question and see what else and everyone else's experience is with it. I hear a lot of the time that people like they wish they didn't do it, or they're like, don't check that box. Don't let CD Baby or TuneCore be your administrators or whatever it's called. Yeah, so I'd probably jump on the Google forums and just check that out and see what other people, because I don't have any experience with those.
Okay, all right, thank you.
No worries.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for being here today and for your wealth of knowledge. And looks like you got a lot of claps and love in the room. Thank you very much for coming.
No worries. Could I also just say one thing too? If anybody's interested in like the library world and all that kind of thing, I haven't set a date for the course yet, but I am doing a library course, kind of music publishers course, in about 3 or 4 weeks. And if you want to kind of keep updated with all that, just go to my there's a group I just created. It's called a Free Crash Course on. I can give you the link, but it's this group, and I'm going to be updating, and then I might even do like a free day workshop kind of thing on before I launch the course. So if you want to know anything about that, I'll send Jeff. I'll send you the link of the group. I think it's called Turning Simple Chords into Hit Records.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the group, and I know many of you are already on it, but so find that, and then you'll get all the latest information of when I do launch that course, and I don't know how many people I'll be able to take, but we'll see. So.
Will do, yeah. We'll post that in the Instrumental Pitch Club Facebook group and send you some business. But thank you for mentioning that, and I'm glad you're going to do that library thing, because I think that seems to be kind of an overarching question that a lot of us are asking and curious about.
Yeah, and it's just such a great way. Like, who doesn't love mailbox money or checks in the mail, or sitting on the beach and then you find out a bunch of money was deposited in your account and you're like, this has made this vacation even better, So, and we get to do what we love to do, which is making music. So it's and I'll tell you one more thing that I'm so excited is that a lot of people wait till they're like, they work a job and they wait till they're like maybe 65 to retire and then finally do what they love to do. But the cool thing is, if we love this, in 4, 5, 6, 10 years time, we can be just like, for the rest of our lives, we've set ourselves in it's so cool. Anyway, I love that.
Yeah, all about passive income. It's wonderful.
That's it. Well, no worries. Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure, and I love talking about all this stuff. So.
Cool.
Love to have you back.
Thank you, bud.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Okay, we're all going to stay on. We'll see you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye. Well, MJ, you had a question. Did you want to pose that to the group, or are you upset that we didn't get Steve to answer that thing? And
Well,
please.
I think I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, the question was mostly for Steve, but I think I know the answer. And it's from some of the questions that people were asking, are the placements mostly with scripted or unscripted TV? Because it would be different approach. Scripted TV will generally have a composer. So people were mentioning Ozark. So they've got a composing team, and that team is responsible for keeping the sound of the show, consistent. So instrumental cues would almost always be their job, but using that template to try to get a placement in a unscripted show, or not play in a sound for an unscripted show, that might be a good strategy. So I was curious whether most of his syncs came from unscripted, which I suspect, because that's what Jingle Punks, that's the main part of their business, is unscripted TV.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
I just kind of.
Tapora said that she asked that question earlier if she wants to, unmute and answer you. I mean, this is an open thing. You guys can unmute yourselves and answer each other. Appreciate muting yourselves while we had Steve on, but yeah, let's open this thing up and blow the roof off.
So did he answer that question? And I just wasn't on yet.
That's what Tapora had wrote. She's on a work call, so she can't answer your question, but that's what it sounds like. So this thing is being recorded, and we'll be able to have you listen to that in a replay. I will.
Because I heard her questions, and I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, okay.
But, well, thank you all for coming. We got another question. Quentin, you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hey, first of all, how y'all doing, man? It's been a minute since I've been able to be on a live call, and I appreciate this group for anybody that's doing instrumentals. I guess my question, and I don't know if you guys covered this or not, especially with like hip hop and sample-based production. If anybody has tried using or ever heard of TrackLib, and it's supposed to be a licensing service for, an easier way to license music for sampling so that you can use it for placements. And then just, is anybody in the group that's doing like hip hop, EDM production that's gotten placements for instrumentals and things like that? And what was the process looking like?
Good question. Yeah, looks like Stefano put a link in the chat. But anyone done the hip hop thing and any success that they can share with Quentin?
I haven't had any placements with hip hop, but it's definitely something that I want to explore, because throughout this course, I didn't think it would be so as popular and prolific in the sync world, but it is, and it's always going to have a place. It seems, always has, always will. So
yeah,
I'll keep my ear to the ground, man, and because it's certainly it's an avenue that I really want to explore more. I actually chose a slightly different genre for this course, but hip hop was going to be the one in place of it had I not done the sort of urban four to the floor stuff. So yeah, let's keep each other informed.
You okay? Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. I've been I talked about it in one of the groups I was in a while back that that I did get put in a library like a few years back, and but it was a library based out of the UK, and but I've never really seen anything come out of it other than them putting my music in on their online radio, and they made a compilation out of the music I sent them and put it on Bandcamp. But I've never seen anything substantial come out of it. I never made any money from it. It was just put in there. I
Yeah, I
guess
mean, it sounds like they just put it on a playlist and uploaded it to some sort of streamable platforms, maybe. Like
yeah. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Quentin, I don't make hip hop music yet, but there's been lots of calls with the Guild of Music Supervisors, and I hear them say over and over and over that they love to use hip hop, but the samples are hard to clear. I was thinking if you can stand out as the person who can produce the music that's already cleared, ready to go, I think there'd be so many people out there ready to, you know, take your music on. So if you could kind of put yourself as that person, I think it sounds like you could be quite busy.
Yeah, actually, there was it's funny you said that, because the Guild of Music Supervisors, there was a meeting a couple weeks ago, and I was so mad I couldn't get on there, but it had in that meeting there was one of the music supervisors that I've been kind of scoping out, because he's placing music that I make, and it's pretty close to the lane I'm in, and they asked for submissions and everything. I did submit some music, so I'm waiting to hear back, and I guess I'm going to try to kind of like Kathy said, wait a little bit and then try to submit some more, whatever like that. But I definitely that's kind of one of my routes right there, is to getting into the Guild of Music Supervisors, so I can get on those calls as well.
Well, you can get on. They're doing a series at the moment every week, and you can basically join it for free to watch. And they've also recorded quite a few of the sessions on YouTube, so you'll be able to do that, you know, whichever week you like.
Yeah, when I tried to get on one, I guess it took. I might have hit the wrong link, but it was a prescription. You had to sign up for a subscription, and there was a little fee or whatever.
Okay, I'll have a quick look and see if I can find a link. I'll post it in.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
All right, cool. Hang on.
There'll be at least 2 levels, right? I know there are a lot of free ones, and I've heard some, and I want to get back into that as well. And then if you sign up for $100 as a friend, you get into everything they do, not as a music supervisor, but as a friend. You can.
Okay.
When they have their seminars, Steve was talking about networking earlier. So when Guild Music Supervisors have their seminars, that $100 gets you into those in-person seminars. Of course, we won't have those immediately. They'll be doing something online instead. But so there's that 2-tier access point.
Okay, that might have been what I was seeing. Thanks, I appreciate that, guys.
Quentin.
Yeah.
I just had something to say about sample-based music, because that was the kind of world I was in.
Yeah, me too.
When I was producing, yeah, because I kind of grew up, you know, vinyl was my thing, so I was sampling a lot of vinyl, and I know that you use MPC and stuff like that, but and that's often can be the focal point of the track, is the sample, or it provides the track with the groove. So the idea for me of not using samples anymore was a bit daunting, and it's like, well, I've got to kind of create the same kind of vibe or something with my own original music. But actually this, it's definitely worth exploring that, because then it just removes the headache entirely, because no matter how many times I pose the question about sampling, clearing a sample, the answer is always don't use them. You know, that doesn't mean to say don't use, like, stop making the type of music you make, because your stuff is sick. But I just mean for stuff that you want to just be safe with, that you want to pitch. I've tried making stuff now that doesn't use any samples at all, and the more I do it, the more comfortable I'm getting with it.
Yeah, same here. I've been trying to put together a little playlist of music that I don't have any samples in at all, and I've gotten decently comfortable with it. But I've seen some matter of fact, that guild meeting one of the things that I saw that they were asking for was like the boom bap kind of sound. And I know that boom bap sound comes with a lot of like samples and scratching and all that kind of stuff. So like I was TrackLib. I'm hoping that somebody's has some advice with using that, because TrackLib, what they're promoting is that all the music that you're licensing from there should be clearable, so that you can use it for samples and stuff, for that sample based music. So that's what I'm hoping. But I was just wondering if anybody's had any experience with that, and how hard it is to get a music supervisor to take a chance on it, you know?
Yeah, it was the first time I'd heard of it when you just mentioned it, so I copied the web link and posted it in the chat here. But it's definitely something I want to check out for sure, because I feel like surely to a certain degree, if you recontextualize a sample enough so it's unrecognizable, you know what I mean? How then can it still be picked up by these algorithms that kind of detect samples? I don't know enough about it, but I just feel like just trying to avoid it for the most part until maybe I can afford to clear these samples.
Right. Yeah. No doubt.
I had two things to suggest, but first I wanted to go back into that topic that Jesse Smith and you Stephanos, just referred to. Jesse, have you actually watched the Chris Bradley videos about chopping up samples? Does she say, here's a minimum amount, or what would be detectable, or anything?
Yeah, I have watched the video. I watched it yesterday, actually. So she kind of talks through like putting the sample into Logic, and then like she might like reverse a bit, do this to it, chop it up, change the tempo, change the key, and then literally it's unrecognizable. So if you're using something on Splice, then you're technically allowed to use it, but you can still, it can still cause headaches down the line, basically. So yeah, it's a really useful video. I can try and find it and put it in the chat if you want to watch.
Okay, it sounds like it would still be very useful for us to know what if you're using a sample that someone would want their permission and approval to license, what is the minimum piece, or how do those algorithms work? Even if we determine what it is now, is that going to change and they're going to replace it with a new algorithm that'll detect something later? So that is something that would be worthy of research, I'm sure.
So it's not really.
I had one other idea. What about older vinyl? It's not necessarily the right style, but stuff that's public domain. I mean, 78s, how far to the 45s? Anyway, so that's one thing. And then the one other idea is a production technique that may be a piece of it if you want to make your own samples. There are plugins, and Isotope has a free one called Vinyl, and they've got a bunch of settings for record warping and noise and stuff. But maybe you know that when you just dial up 50s, 60s, 70s, and so you just throw that on there as part of your production technique.
Yeah. One of the things I was wanted to do, and what I've done in the past, was I had a lot of musician friends kind of like record some stuff, like some loops and things like that, and then I would take it and chop it up and do some sample based like things like that. And that's something that I guess that's one way one route I've taken as far as beating that getting clearable samples things for that type of sound. Splice, I just posted in this, is another one that's supposed to be clearable, usable loops and things like that. And I definitely have gotten pretty creative with chopping up stuff to where I got tracks right now that I've taken from popular old vinyl, like sample heavy stuff that pretty much nobody would know where it came from. But the integrity thing is is why I don't post them on like for getting clearance and stuff like that. Because like what Stephen said, I don't know how the algorithms work, but I don't want to get into a conflict with a music supervisor that's taking a chance on me and me risking losing that relationship because I have a sample that can't be cleared. So I'm definitely doing original content now, but to try to meet that demand in the hip hop and getting clearable samples for placements, that's kind of a concern because I like Stephen said, that's kind of been my lane and where I came from with creating music and just being creative with samples. But cool, thanks.
I had two more suggestions relative to items that you said. So Splice also has competitors. There's Output Arcade, and there are probably some others. So if we look at their license agreement and determine that all of that's available, that's one area. Another one is there are, and you're probably already into this, but there are sound libraries that you can buy. There are tons of websites where people sometimes have sales, $5 for a whole slew of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I have Stylus RMX from Spectrasonics, and I just bought up a whole bunch of libraries when they were on sale once, and there was I have a relationship with one TV show, and they asked me for some hip hop stuff, and I had never done any. I'm not an authentic guy like you, but I just put some stuff together, and they loved it, and they used that. They haven't asked for more. But so, in terms of sources of materials that you can clear easily, and then of course the other end of it is when you're presenting it to people, you want to find a really good catchphrase. Samples, no problem samples, or one-stop shop, including all the samples. They're already handled. Somehow you want to phrase that so that when they see you as their go-to person, I think Katrina's right. If you can hit that point, you'll have lots of work.
Great idea there, Tom.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, Dad. You wanted to chime in? MJ, you wanted to chime in? You look like you're
yeah. So anecdotally, you don't want to use any part of an uncleared sample in case it ever gets found out, because you will be indemnifying yourself. And a friend of mine who was working in sync for a while used literally a whoop from a song. It was recognized and it bankrupted him.
Mm-hmm.
It was put in he's Australian. It was done in an Australian show. The opening title credits of a show that ran for years, and he was responsible for the royalties it would have generated for all that time. So that should put the fear of God in you as far as using unlicensed samples. And it's like not even a full second worth, but it was a recognizable thing, and that's that. The issue with using Splice or any of the other libraries is that, to my understanding, I mean, they're already cleared, so you're welcome to use it. But if you're using it and you're not making it your own sound, then it will sound, it's possible that, let's say, YouTube or some other algorithmic thing will pick up on it and say, well, we've got two songs or two cues that sound the same because they have these similar elements. So if you use it just raw and unprocessed like that, you run the risk of that. It's not a legal problem necessarily, but it is a problem for you as far as, well, who gets the royalty from this? So that's my 2 cents. I've done a bunch of TV movies, but no TV shows. So the rules are kind of the same, but TV shows are different in that they generate so much more music. So if that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah, instead of borrowing someone's, just make your own.
Yeah, it's. Actually, if I can, one more thing. I recently did, a Lifetime movie, and there's a request for a popular song that we all thought was in the public domain. They did the research, not my responsibility. I did a quick knockoff instrumental of that song, and it turns out it's not in the public domain in Germany. So they have to replace it. And we are, I mean, this is something I'm doing right now. There's this, you know, there's this back and forth. When you lock, for the people who don't know, you take music, you lock it to picture, there's a final mix where all the sounds of the show and the music gets mixed together, and then that's delivered to, you know, the channel or whoever, the distributor. The final mix process is very expensive because you have to do them in special studios that sound great, and they cost thousands of dollars an hour. So and it's like a 1 week process at maybe not thousands of dollars an hour, but certainly $1,000 an hour, let's say, for a week, something like that. And if you have to make a change, you have to open up the mix, you have to go back to that studio, and you don't have to remix everything, but you have to redo that part and then redo the output. So there's this question of who's now going to be responsible for that, of this song that they told me was in the public domain. It's like, it told me it was in the public domain. I said, I'll do it, but I'm not indemnifying myself for it. So these things do come up.
Did you get in writing at the time?
I did. Well, it's email interaction back and forth. And yeah, I mean, that's where we're going, but they don't want to pay for it, and they know I'm not going to pay for it. And the distributor, it's like, well, we're not going to not distribute it in Germany. So somebody's going to have to pay for that. So it comes up. So be careful with samples. That's, I guess, the moral of that little tale.
Thanks for that.
Most definitely. Yeah.
It's going to be the motto of the second half of this program.
That's right.
Beware of samples. Well, I don't know if you guys had more questions or what you want to do. Shoot off some fireworks, get ready for the 4th, start throwing some dogs on the Barbie and all that kind of junk. Y'all's thoughts. I got to go to the bathroom myself.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you all for coming. We do this weekly. You know, this is an amazing turnout, and we're going to try getting other people to come out. I've been talking to and chatting with some music supervisors here and there, and trying to get them to come on board. You know, please use your networking capabilities to try to get people on. I actually didn't even get Steve on myself. I think Tom or Richard had.
I did, because I'm in this pod.
Good work.
So we got to thank them for bringing the in for us, and you guys have a great weekend, and really appreciate your time and your attention, and I love you.
Cheers, Jeff. Thanks.
You got it.
Have a great night.
Save the chat.
Yep.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay,
Save the
one.
chat.
Amen. Okay.
Save the chat. Save the record. Post it
Anything
all.
else we need to talk about, Jeff, before we sign off?
I don't know. Who are we going to get on next week? We're going to get on Hans Zimmer or someone like that?
John Williams.
John Williams. There we go.
Is there any of the mentors that we want that would enjoy something like this?
I think Mike Averill would. I think Michael would.
Anyone here in his pod?
No, but I talk with him.
Jennifer, do you have a DM connection? Can you reach out to him?
I do. We're besties.
Sweet.
I do too. I've been talking with him myself. So.
Awesome.
Well,
You
maybe if you want to reach out, that's fine.
Tag team and take them down.
Yeah, let's get him in.
Oh yeah. You stun him and I'll wrap him.
Not sure his wife would like that, but okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't sound right.
Richard. Well, Leah, let's aim for that, and I guess we're same bat time, same bat channel next week.
Okay.
Okay, thanks guys. Have a great 4th, great weekend.
Yeah.
I love you guys.
Love you too. Oh, Jennifer, were
Yes.
you the one I was conversing with regarding your microphone and equipment? You're up in
Yeah.
Idaho. Did you buy a mic? Did you?
You know what? I am going to get the Vanguard V13. I've read some.